This episode of Express Training Bites is brought to you by PromoCorner. Are you looking to support a sales campaign and reach a larger audience? Raise your brand awareness with content sponsorships. For more information, reach out to sales@promocorner.com. This is Express Training Bites. I am Brandon Petrich, the digital media director for PromoCorner. And with me today, we have somebody who is actually a blog writer for PromoCorner. He writes a blog for us called The Pursuit of Purpose. So you can always check out any of his blogs at any time over at promocorner.com under the promo journal tab. Today, we have Paul Kiewiet, and I am so pumped to have him on here. We are going to talk about his recently published book, Summit, Reaching the Peak of Your Potential. So this is live and this is on PromoCorner's Facebook page. So if you have any questions or comments for Paul, put them over in the message section just right there and we will get to them. So Paul, how are we doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you, Brandon?
Doing well. Anytime I get to do this show and we can figure out our way through the technology issues, I'm always pumped. And I'm always pumped to especially have somebody who has all of the experience in the industry that I love that you do. And we were talking a little bit before, but it is so amazing to get to read all of your blogs and see all of the stuff that you have gone through. And you have put that all together in your first book. So why did you choose to write this book?
You know, writing a book is something that's been on my mind for a long time. I've been speaking in the industry and writing in the industry for, hate to admit it, decades. From time to time, I've had people say you should write a book, and I've always been an avid reader and always had it on my bucket list. And it was interesting back in 2014. After a routine colonoscopy, the doctor called me back to come back in and visit in his office, and he said the pathology has come back and it's malignant. And with that drive home with my wife, you suddenly are facing your mortality. At that point, all I knew was I had a malignant tumor. I didn't know if I was stage 4, where it was. I had no idea where the future was going to go. And strangely, with all the thoughts that go through your mind at a time like that, the only regret I had that came up was, you never wrote a book. And so here we are almost 6 years later, I wrote a book. And it's funny because when I was really pursuing a speaking career, I should have written a book. When I was really trying to build a coaching business, I should have written a book. Now that I'm not in it, doing it for the money, and I'm not doing it for the fame, I'm not doing it to build a speaking or coaching business, I wrote the darn book. And it's funny because last October, in writing Pursuit of Purpose, I decided to rerun an article I first wrote in October of 2007 for PPB Magazine. It was about our friend and industry legend, Stan Breckenridge. And I wrote about the resilience that man demonstrated, coming back from having his face and mouth smashed by a baseball, growing up with a single mother in poverty, to rise to become chairman of PPAI. Just a totally inspirational story. And I republished it and wrote the final paragraph relating it to the resilience needed during these difficult times. And just as sometimes when I speak, I go, wow, I really like that, even though I've given that particular speech 100 times. With that article, it was like, I really like that. I should maybe compile take a look at some of my writings that I like the best. And that precipitated it. I started going through and put together a compilation of the book, and it was a scary process. Many times I wanted to just, okay, you're full of yourself. Someone once made that comment to me, and my response to myself was, wow, thank you. I needed that. Because it's kind of like, really, am I qualified to share this? But I decided to put it all together. So the process was The process was grueling. It was a matter of needing to push myself. I needed to review more than a decade's worth of writing that I had on file, decide which ones I liked. And I had done a series that I'd called Countdown to Success. I'd started with 10 ways to be a professional and worked down to this one thing. And each of those 10 were a blog post at one time by themselves. And so I started with that compilation and then put together the rest. And with the working title of Countdown to Success, I sent it to our friend Paul Bellantone. And he was my first reader. And he liked it a lot, except he hated the title Countdown to Success. He thought it sounded like a bomb was about ready to go off. But he also offered to write the foreword for the book, which he did, and it's a great way to start it. Whoa, there it is. I then sent it to another friend who's an author, published author, Dave Sweet. Dave wrote the book, The Satisfaction Formula, and has been a speaker at some of our MIPA events. And he liked it. His advice to me was, you've got it so narrow to the promotional products industry. A lot of this advice could really be a general business book, and you should redo it as a general business book. So I'm starting, okay, you got to change the title, maybe rewrite it and expand it. And then I sent it to Stan Phelps. Now, Stan wrote the Purple Goldfish series and co-authored with our friend Roger Burnett, the Red Goldfish promo edition. And Stan had the complete opposite advice of Dave. He goes, you love that industry, you wrote for that industry, try it out in that industry first. And then if it starts getting wild success, you can always come out with a general marketing edition. And he gave me the great advice of, you need to start telling a couple of people that you're writing a book. And that was really probably the best advice, because again, editing, rewriting, changing things, it's so easy to go, yeah, you don't need to do this. Why are you doing this? You're not going to make any money at it. You're not trying to build a speaking business anymore, dude. Why are you doing this? But he said, set a publishing date. So I chose April 23, which is my wife's birthday. Aww. And he said, you need a strong intro, and gave me just some great advice about building the book, rebuilding the book. So it was kind of a grueling process, but I'm pleased. I set it out in 6 different sections. Section 1 is the countdown to success, and part 6 really relates to my experiences of attempting to climb Mount Ararat unsuccessfully, and then following that up, taking the lessons I learned from that failure to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and how that relates to what we're trying to do each day and reaching our own pinnacles of success.
That is so awesome. I mean, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but and you kind of glossed over it here, but literally I asked you, so what made you want to write this? It took me my whole life to kind of make this book happen. And I love how you did that, how all those things in your life and the reasons why you were doing it. That is so awesome that this was just the right time, and there was enough to put in there. And that's really awesome too. I didn't know that you reached out to all those people. That is some amazing advice from some awesome people. So, I've always wondered, because I see my friends publish books and in smaller forms and larger forms. How did you get it published? How do you go about finding a publisher for something like this?
That's the wonderful thing about the age we live in today. I would love to tell you that Simon & Schuster contacted me and gave me $1 million bonus. But actually, if you start researching publishing, and there's always been a lot of routes for self-publishing, most of them usually involved a lot of money, committing to a lot of books, and putting forth just a pretty big financial investment to self-publish. Today, you don't have to. Kindle Amazon has a division called Kindle Direct Publishing, and you could literally publish your own book for like $0. And I
Wow.
I invested in having the interior professionally typeset and spent some money because I wanted it to reflect what I was trying to say and do and I if you're going to do it right, you know. So I did invest in having a freelancer take care of putting the inside together, but uh, Dana Geiger taught me how to use Canva, and all of the interior graphics I designed in Canva. I designed the cover in Canva, and I did publish a couple of photos of my mountain climbing experience in the book as well. But Kindle Direct Publishing basically is a print on demand. So you send them the files. It was interesting because when I did announce that I had the book out, I had ordered my author copies, and I just got my author copies on Saturday, and I was seeing people on social media holding up my book. I'm like, I want to see it. I want to hold it.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, you created the whole thing and everybody else is getting it before you. Oh goodness. That is awesome. So it's called Summit, and you hinted at, you know, the failure of climbing the first mountain, but then finishing Kilimanjaro and kind of making that in a metaphor for business. But do you think you could recap some of your favorite stories out of the book that would maybe entice somebody who is listening or watching right now to go out and purchase it and read more?
Yeah, the mountain analogies just are, you know, just out there, and uh, one of the things was Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat was my first mountain. It's in eastern Turkey on the border with Armenia and Iran, and you literally can see into both of those countries. And it's also right in the middle of Kurdish Turkey, which, if you follow political science, you know the Turks and the Kurds don't get along too well. So it's a very interesting area, but because it's such a area of intense defensive structure, the Wi-Fi was awesome. I had 4 bars going up all the way up that mountain. So consequently, I'm showing off and posting on Facebook about my progress and about climbing the mountain, and you know had quite a few people following me. So when I failed, that was part of it as well. It was like, how do I tell all these people I'm not going to make it to the summit? Um, and that was a result of this is the part that my wife loves because of her I told you so's. During the winter, I live in Michigan. She had gotten my crampons out a couple of times and said, "You ought to go walk on the lake. You ought to go walk on the ice. Maybe you should go climb some hills and try these out." I got up that mountain to the glacier part of it, the snow cap area, with brand new crampons and a brand new ice axe, and I could have been holding a tire bar in my hands, or probably a popsicle stick for all good that ice axe would do. I didn't know how to use it, and we got to high camp where the glacier started, and I put the crampons on the afternoon before after we got to high camp, and started walking on the glacier, and it took about 10 minutes, and crack. I looked down and my crampons, that metal
Hmm.
cubey thing you put on your boot.
Hmm.
It's just doing a 90-degree on me. And so with my same level of confidence, I tried jerry rigging it back together and so on, and felt like I had it. And the next morning we start out, and I'm I'd been the slowest because there's just a lot of assumptions I made. Climbing a mountain, I know how to walk, I know how to climb. Yeah, first couple of days, altitude was getting to me. That whole idea of take a breath, take a step, uh, was a shocker, but it was like I really didn't have any. By that time, I had run like 19, 26-mile marathons. I'm pretty strong endurance athlete, and so my self confidence was just all over the place. Truth was, I didn't know a thing about climbing mountains, and so I've got a chapter that's called "Have the Right Gear and Know How to Use It," and I talk about all of those things because I finally turned around and let the rest of the group go and walked back to high camp and just punished myself with negative self-talk. I mean,
Mhm.
it was like, you loser. In marathons, they call it a DNF, did not finish. And
Yep.
I'd never had a DNF. I'd had some where I came in last place, but I never had a DNF before. And I was just beating myself up. And then as I looked out of the tent, I could see the shadow of the mountain peak out in the distance. The sun was coming up over Mount Ararat, and here you could just perfectly see the peak of the mountain. And I was like, what are you beating yourself up for? You're 60 years old. This is your first mountain. You're 15,000 feet above sea level. You're you're experiencing something no very few people get to experience. What Why aren't you experiencing some gratitude?
Mhm.
And I'd done enough speaking and writing at that time about choose your attitude. It was like time to time to take my own medicine and changed it to gratitude. And then the introspection became, okay, why couldn't I do this? I had to just look at my 270-pound body that I had not bothered to lose the weight for. So with the
Mhm.
packs and everything else, I'm dragging 300 pounds up a 16,000-foot mountain. Um, I hadn't bothered to learn how to use my equipment. Had I fallen on that ice, I'm not sure what I would have been doing with the ice axe. It's like you need to know this stuff. It's dangerous. So um, I decided I was going to conquer one of the seven summits. Summits refer to the highest peaks on all of the seven continents, and
Mhm.
Mount Kilimanjaro was a choice. And the following year, um, I summited Mount Kilimanjaro. Ironically, it was on the day of commemorating the fifth anniversary of my mother's passing, um, which was also um, the day that I found out that it was on the day of my mother's funeral, which was the day that I had learned that my late wife had passed away. Um, she had passed on the day of my mother's funeral, which gets into a whole nother story, which I allude to, and I don't go into great detail in the book. Some have heard it in my talk on When Life Hands You Lemons.
Mhm. Mhm. That is that those are some powerful stories, and this is just a section of the book. And you said you broke it up into six sections. I see that.
Right.
um yeah, so Barnes and Noble puts it out and says, yeah, that there's bite-sized chapters. That's what they call them. So
Most of them were blog posts at one time.
awesome. Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. And that's actually, I had told you, and I think that's one of those things that, first of all, amazing. That is so cool to take all of those downs and be able to realize that those downs just make those ups that much better, and to be able to have the presence of mind to have such a failure like that, but then to just be able to pull yourself out of it is some strength that very few have. And so that is awesome that you're able to share that with everybody else too, that there are massive downs, but you can turn those around into some awesome summits. But I love the fact that you have taken all of these stories and all of these blog posts, and collection of your life and your experiences and put them into one place. So congratulations on writing that book, Paul. That is really awesome.
I appreciate it.
That is so cool. Well, thank you to everybody who has been watching. Paul, there are a bunch of people in the comment section here loving your stories. Everybody loved the Wi-Fi part of that story. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading that part of the book. Ellie, Walter, and Tim, thank you so much for commenting. And they all say congratulations and tell you all the well wishes. In everything that you're doing and success in the book. So, Paul, that's going to do it today for Express Training Bites. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
All right. Thanks for having me. I
That
appreciate
is
it.
awesome. Everybody, thanks for watching. And we do record this and we do repurpose it and put it back out on Tuesdays over at Promo Journal. Happens to be the same place that you can go and find all of Paul's blogs as well. And again, that is called The Pursuit of Purpose. And that's been Express Training Bites. We'll see you next Thursday.